You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to the program. I'm Roby Brock. This is Capitol View. I'm joined now by one of the biggest victors on election night, and that is Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Roby.
Just under 50%, I think. So, but you know, I mean,
Nearly
it was
50,
a big, it was
nearly.
a big margin of victory there. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Just first and foremost, just internally grateful to the residents of Little Rock for electing us to a second term. It truly was a blessing from God for this to happen. We're excited, we're motivated, and we're focused on how we grow forward as a city. Tough
race, and I'll get to a few things that you had to encounter in the course of all that. What do you think was the key to victory? What do you look back at the numbers now, and you kind of had a little bit of time to put some perspective to it? What do you think was the key to victory?
I think the key to victory was, one, clearly the residents of Little Rock. I continue to share with everyone, they are my bosses, and they hold me accountable. And so our team at the City of Little Rock, as well as the campaign team, we just shared the message of the work that we've been doing the past 3.5 years, despite a pandemic. And we wanted to ensure that everyone knew the work we were doing. We continue to communicate throughout our administration on the work that was being done. We believe that resonated with the people of Little Rock. And again, focusing on the positives of the city of Little Rock and how we grow forward, whether it be the 8,000 plus jobs that we have announced over the past 4 years, increasing our population to 203,000, ensuring that everyone knew that Little Rock is one of two mid-sized cities that actually grew in the South, being Little Rock and Huntsville. And so that positive message being reinforced of the work that we've been doing the past 3.5 years, we believe that message resonated with the people of Little Rock, and they wanted to continue to focus on unity, growth, and transformation.
I moderated 3 of the debates that you guys had over the course of this. I was feeling a little bit like the mayor candidate whisperer there for a little while because I knew all of you pretty well. So, but anyhow, so, what are you going to be focused on in a second term? What do you think you've got clearance to do now?
Well, I think the main focus in the second term is to continue the work that we've been doing, but do some new things. Clearly, we have to focus and collaborate with our city board to ensure that the vision and mission is inclusive, that we focus on unity and growth and transformation for the city. The top priority on my mind right now is hiring our next police chief.
When will we see that?
Here pretty soon.
Here pretty soon. That's a vague answer right there. I need to.
It takes time. Clearly, it takes time.
A month, 2 months before the end of the year.
I just will say soon. Again, we've been spending a lot of time thinking about it, working on it, as you know, because our police chief retired in May of this year, and so we are focused on that. We have a pool of applicants, of course, and we've been going through those applications. And again, it's been a top priority to get that done quick, fast, in a hurry. But we want to make sure that we make the right decision. And so those are the things that are on my mind exactly right now.
Soon. I'm going to have to look up the definition on that one there. You mentioned too about with the city board having more inclusiveness or more inclusion in there. What is that? Just a lesson you've learned in the first term, or do you think you've got something specific in mind?
In leadership, you can't be a good leader if you can't reflect and look inward and figure out how there are areas of opportunity for improvement. And so one of the things that I want to do is ensure that I improve board relations because a mayor can't get anything done without 6 votes. I'm grateful that we were able to get a lot done with 6 votes over the past 4 years, but I wouldn't be totally honest with myself if I said that we got it done very easily. There were definitely some challenges. I learned a lot of lessons. I want to make sure that I share that with the members of the city board, that there's been some lessons learned. I look at this next second term as a complete reset. I was talking with one of my members of the board and said, hey, I called about a particular city, talked to them briefly when I ran into them, and basically said, hey, when we get a chance to have some coffee, let's reset. And they said yes. And so I'm excited about that. And again, as a leader, I have to look inward to see what areas that I can do better. And I know that's the area that I want to focus on is increasing board relations.
I'm not going to dwell on the negative here, but I do want to just kind of go back here. I mean, I'm not sure I've seen a candidate endure as many bad headlines in an election cycle as you did in this election cycle.
Now, Roby, you don't have to tell it all.
Well, the city has been dealing with an escalating crime problem. Certainly homicides are at a level that you would never want to see them. The Lit Fest festival all fell apart there throughout this campaign, and there's this topic of FOI issues here too. Let's talk about crime.
Yeah.
You advocated during the campaign a long-term, holistic approach to solving the crime issue. I think that probably stays on track, if I had to guess. I'm not putting words in your mouth. What do you advocate doing more quickly, though, in the short term? What is something we could do? Obviously, hiring a new police chief would be one of those things, but are there some specific action items that you could do immediately?
Sure, the very specific action items that we can share right now publicly. One is clearly the long-term holistic approach. It continues. Acting Chief of Police Wayne Bewley shared when we experienced our 70th homicide that it's working, it needs to be sustained. And so we're grateful that the people of Little Rock see that this resonating. We're seeing violent crime go down by -6%. Unfortunately, our homicides are a record high. And we know that those homicides have different aspects to it, but it's an area of opportunity that we have to focus on as a priority. But going forward is continue to stand up our recently announced real-time crime center that adds additional eyes on the streets that helps with crime prevention. We want to focus on making sure that our officers have raises and make some pay adjustments. So that's something that we'll be working with the city board in the upcoming budget discussions, where we'll be giving, subject to the city board's approval, pay adjustments to ensure that we remain competitive. The city of Little Rock has always been, from Little Rock Police Department standpoint, has always been competitive and leading the way in salary for our officers. We know recently at the legislature we were surpassed by the Arkansas State Police, and so we'll be making some adjustments to make sure that we're remaining very competitive.
You mentioned the crime center there. I'm not familiar with how that works. What is it that it does that puts more eyeballs on the street and helps, I guess, address things before they escalate?
Sure. When you say additional eyes on the streets, there are additional cameras that you can't know about or where they're located, but it helps us. It does not have any artificial imaging or facial recognition, but it does help us really key on suspects that are out and about that need to be captured. Helps us, if the crime incident actually happens, helps us garner more evidence to capture the respective individuals who've committed that crime. And so it's been very successful. It's only been going for right at a month now, I believe, and we've already had some successful captures and arrests already. And so we think that's going to be very prominent in our holistic approach on how we focus on fighting crime. And so, but in addition to the real-time crime center, of course, we're going to be making pay adjustment and raises for our officers. We want to ensure that they have all the equipment and resources that they have, because we've always fully funded them, but we know we have to do more as we continue to fight crime.
The state legislature comes into session in January. I've got an interview with Senator Bart Hester this weekend where he talks about not adding 1,000 beds to the prison system in Arkansas, but 3,000 beds is what he's suggesting. How much of that will help? Does there need to be some parole reform as well at the state level? Will you be advocating for some state law changes to address crime?
I think we definitely have to address parole reform in the upcoming legislature. Unfortunately, as you know, I'm an associate pastor, and I've spoken a lot and preached a lot at prisons, and I'm very involved in reentry efforts. And clearly a part of our holistic approach is having prevention, intervention, treatment programs as well as reentry. And so quick shout out to Restore Hope and others who are working with the city of Little Rock, with our brothers and sisters that are exiting the system to ensure that they don't revert back. But one of the things that the city of Little Rock experiences is an enormous number of parolees that are paroled to the city of Little Rock who aren't from Little Rock. And so while we know that many times our brothers and sisters are in need of second and third chances, we also know that the city of Little Rock shares a brunt of many of the parolees it's not reflected in a very equitable fashion across the state. And
so how do you change that?
I think we definitely have to work with the next governor, Governor-elect Sanders, as well as those who are focused on that, to ensure that we have some type of communication about it from that standpoint.
Lit Fest, obviously we referenced earlier, fell apart there right before the election. What would you have done differently about LitFest, and will you try it again?
First and foremost, I think LitFest, clearly there were some lessons learned, there were some mistakes from that standpoint. When the issues came to my table, we counseled it, and so that's in the past. We want to focus on the present and the future. But one of the things that I definitely know that definitely could have been better communication. Wholesale, and so we want to make sure that going forward, when we want to focus on another event of that scale and magnitude, that it's more inclusive, there's more communication as we move forward together with it. And again, we believe it's something that the city needs to really show the best of the city from a cultural standpoint, technology, entrepreneurship, arts and entertainment, and really bring people back to the city of Little Rock for whatever reason why they may have left, to let them know how much we have grown and what we're doing to grow forward. That was the whole point about it. And two, because we know, as you know, we haven't had a Riverfest in many, many years, and many residents are yearning for something of that magnitude. And I think there's some lessons learned on how we'll proceed going forward. And again, the buck stops with me. And as I share with everyone, there's been lessons learned, and when issues arise, we make decisions to ensure that they're corrected.
So it sounds like you'll try something again. It just may not be called LitFest.
I will say it was a passion of mine to see a festival that brings out the best of our city, to showcase our city not only to ourselves inwardly, but to the external state as well as the nation. And we think that's something that's sorely needed. It doesn't happen overnight, just like Riverfest in its magnitude did not happen overnight. And so it's something that we would definitely love to do. But again, I got to get to January 1st, and so that's not something that's a top priority. My top priority is hiring our next police chief.
All right, you are going to be testifying in court, I think, in a couple of weeks on some Freedom of Information Act litigation there. What seems to be the problem with being able to get FOI requests met in 3 days? Why can't that be done?
Sure, I can't give all the details. As you know, it's currently under litigation, and so I can't share too much. What I can share is to the public is that the city of Little Rock is inundated with a number of different requests. We've had some staff allocation issues that need to be corrected, and they will be corrected, and just want to continue to focus on that because we want to be and we will be accountable, clear, and transparent, and we'll get it corrected.
All right, he's Mayor Frank Scott of Little Rock. He's got a second term. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, that's all for today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.